Samuel Crow woke up to the sound of dripping water. He opened his eyes and saw a dark stain spreading across the wooden ceiling above his bed. Another drop fell and hit his forehead. He wiped it away with the back of his hand and sat up slowly. The storm had been bad. 3 days of heavy rain and strong winds had beaten against his small cabin on Widow's Peak. Samuel had listened to the trees bending and creaking outside his windows. He had heard branches falling on his roof. But he had stayed inside. Like he always did. Now he could see the damage. Water was coming through the roof in several places. His kitchen table was wet. His few books were soaked. The old quilt his wife had made years ago was ruined. Samuel stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the mountain looked different. Trees were down everywhere. The path he used to get supplies was blocked by a huge fallen pine tree. His truck was crushed under another tree. He had lived alone on this mountain for 7 years. 7 years since the fire that took everything from him. 7 years since he had lost his wife Mary and their little daughter Emma. 7 years since he had last spoken to another human being for more than a few minutes. Samuel liked it that way. Up here, no one could hurt him. No one could ask him questions about that night. No one could look at him with pity in their eyes. No one could tell him it was not his fault when he knew it was. The cabin was small, but it had been enough. 1 room with a bed, a table, 2 chairs, and a wood stove. Samuel had built shelves for his few belongings. He had a radio that sometimes picked up stations from the town below. He had his tools and his books. He had his memories, both good and bad. Samuel made coffee on his small stove and looked at the ceiling again. More water was dripping down. The damage was worse than he first thought. If he did not fix it soon, the whole roof might fall in. He had some tools, but not the right ones for this job. He had some wood, but not enough. He would need to go down to Cedar Hollow to get supplies. The thought made his stomach feel sick. Cedar Hollow was the small town at the bottom of the mountain. Samuel had lived there once with Mary and Emma. They had a house on Maple Street with a white fence and a garden full of flowers. Mary had worked at the library. Emma had gone to kindergarten and made friends with all the other children. That was before the fire. Before everything changed. Samuel had not been back to Cedar Hollow since he moved up the mountain. He bought his supplies from a store 2 towns over, driving his old truck down the back roads when he needed food or other things. It took longer, but it meant he did not have to see the faces of people who knew him, people who remembered what happened. But now his truck was crushed. The road out the back way was blocked. If he wanted to fix his roof before winter came, he had only one choice. He would have to go down the mountain to Cedar Hollow. Samuel spent the morning moving his things away from the leaks. He put buckets under the worst spots. He tried to cover his books with plastic bags. He looked at the photo he kept on the table. Mary and Emma were smiling at him from the picture. Emma was missing her front teeth. Mary had her arm around their daughter. "I have to go down there," he said to the photo. "I do not want to, but I have to." The photo did not answer. It never did. Samuel packed a small bag with some money and his identification. He had not used his driver's license in years, but it was still good. He put on his best shirt and his cleanest pants. They were old and worn, but they were all he had. He looked at himself in the small mirror by his bed. His hair was long and gray. His beard was wild and unkempt. His face was thin and weathered from years in the mountain sun and wind. He looked like what he was. A man who had been hiding from the world for too long. The walk down the mountain took 3 hours. Samuel had to climb over fallen trees and around washouts where the rain had washed away pieces of the trail. His legs were strong from years of walking these paths, but he was not used to carrying a heavy pack. As he got closer to town, he started to see houses. Small cabins at first, then bigger homes with gardens and children's toys in the yards. He saw cars on the roads and people walking their dogs. Normal life. The kind of life he used to have. Samuel felt his chest getting tight. His hands started to shake a little. He had not been around this many people in 7 years. He wanted to turn around and go back up the mountain, but when he thought about his leaking roof and winter coming, he kept walking. The first person who saw him was Mrs. Peterson, who was getting her mail from the box at the end of her driveway. She looked at him for a long moment, then her eyes got wide. "Samuel?" she said. "Samuel Crow? Is that really you?" Samuel nodded but did not stop walking. Mrs. Peterson had been Mary's friend. They had gone to church together and shared recipes. She had been at the funeral. "Samuel, wait," Mrs. Peterson called after him. But Samuel kept walking. He could not stop now, or he might never make it to the store. More people saw him as he walked through town. Some stared openly. Others whispered to each other after he passed. Samuel kept his eyes on the ground and walked faster. The hardware store was on Main Street next to the bank and across from the diner where he used to take Mary for breakfast on Sundays. Samuel pushed open the door and heard the little bell ring. The sound was the same as it had been 7 years ago. Behind the counter was Joe Martinez, who had owned the store for 20 years. Joe looked up from his newspaper and his mouth fell open. "Well, I'll be," Joe said slowly. "Samuel Crow, I thought you were dead." Samuel walked to the counter. His hands were shaking now, but he tried to keep his voice steady. "I need roofing supplies," he said. "Shingles and nails, tar paper, some wood for repairs." Joe stared at him for another moment, then nodded. "Sure thing. How much you need?" Samuel gave him the list he had written. Joe wrote down the prices and added them up. It was more money than Samuel had with him. "I can pay half now," Samuel said. "Can I come back with the rest tomorrow?" Joe looked at him carefully. "You living up on the mountain all this time?" Samuel nodded. "Alone?" Samuel nodded again. Joe was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "You can pay me when you can. I know you're good for it." Samuel felt something tight in his chest, loosen a little. "Thank you. I can have everything ready by tomorrow morning," Joe said. "You need help getting it up the mountain?" "I will manage," Samuel said. As he turned to leave, Joe called after him. "Samuel, it is good to see you. Mary would be glad you are taking care of yourself." Samuel stopped walking but did not turn around. After a moment, he nodded and walked out of the store. Outside, the sun was setting behind the mountains. Samuel looked up at Widow's Peak, where his broken cabin waited. Tomorrow he would come back for the supplies. Tomorrow he would start fixing what was broken. But tonight, for the first time in 7 years, Samuel Crow would sleep in Cedar Hollow. Samuel spent the night in his old truck, which he had left parked behind the hardware store 7 years ago. Joe Martinez had kept it running and the battery charged, though he never said why. The truck smelled like oil and old leather, but it was familiar. It reminded Samuel of better times. He did not sleep well. Every sound made him jump. A dog barking, a car driving by, voices of people walking home from the tavern. Samuel had forgotten how noisy towns could be, even small ones like Cedar Hollow. When morning came, Samuel was already awake. He had been watching the sun rise over the mountains through the truck's dirty windshield. His back hurt from sleeping on the old seat and his stomach was empty. He had not brought any food with him. Samuel walked to the diner across the street. The same red sign hung over the door, Mabel's Home Cooking. Through the window, he could see people eating breakfast and drinking coffee. Normal people living normal lives. Samuel almost turned around and left. But his stomach hurt from hunger, and he knew he needed to eat something before carrying supplies up the mountain. The bell over the door rang when he walked in. Several people looked up from their coffee and eggs. Samuel recognized some faces, though they were older now. Jim Watson, who used to fix cars, Mrs. Chen, who taught at the elementary school, Bob Kelly, who worked at the post office. They all stared at him. Some whispered to each other. Samuel found an empty table in the corner and sat down. A young waitress came over with a menu. She looked about 20 with blonde hair pulled back in a ponytail. Samuel did not recognize her. "Good morning," she said with a smile. "I'm Jenny. What can I get you?" "Coffee," Samuel said. "And eggs. 2 eggs. How do you want them cooked?" "However is easy," Jenny wrote on her pad. "Toast?" Samuel nodded. "Coming. Right up," Jenny said. She seemed nice. She did not stare at him like the others. While he waited for his food, Samuel listened to the conversations around him. People talked about their jobs, their families, the weather, normal things. But then he heard something that made him pay attention. "I feel bad for those little girls," a woman was saying. She sat at the table behind Samuel. "Living in that old farmhouse with no heat." "Elena's doing the best she can," another woman answered. "But she's so sick. Cancer's eating her up from the inside." "What's going to happen to Maya and Lucy when she dies?" the first woman asked. "Elena's got no family left. Social services will take them, I suppose." "Split them up, most likely. Nobody wants two kids at once." Samuel turned his head slightly to hear better. "That farmhouse is falling apart," the second woman continued. "Roof leaks, windows are broken, Elena can't afford to fix anything. She's spending all her money on medicine that's not even helping." "Someone should do something," the first woman said. "Like what?" "We've all got our own problems, and Elena's too proud to take charity." Jenny brought Samuel his eggs and coffee. They smelled good, but Samuel found it hard to eat while listening to the conversation behind him. "Where's this farmhouse?" he asked Jenny when she came back to refill his coffee. "Which farmhouse?" Jenny asked. "The one with the sick woman and two children." Jenny's face got sad. "Oh, you mean Elena Hartwell and her girls. It's about 2 miles out of town, on Willow Creek Road. You know Elena?" Samuel shook his head. "Just heard people talking about it." "It's real sad," Jenny said, lowering her voice. "Elena's been fighting cancer for 2 years. She's a good woman, but she's got no help. Those little girls are trying to take care of everything themselves. Maya's only 8, but she acts like she's the mom." "What about their father?" Samuel asked. "Died in a car accident when Lucy was a baby. Elena's been on her own since then." Samuel ate his eggs slowly, thinking. After he finished, he paid Jenny and left a tip. She smiled and told him to have a good day. Outside, Samuel walked to the hardware store. Joe Martinez was loading his supplies into the back of a pickup truck. "Morning, Samuel," Joe said. "I borrowed Tom's truck to drive this stuff up the mountain for you. These bags are too heavy to carry." Samuel was surprised. "You do not have to do that." "Want to," Joe said. "Besides, I want to see what you've built up there." They drove up the mountain in silence for most of the way. The road was rough, and Joe had to drive slowly around the fallen trees. When they reached Samuel's cabin, Joe looked around with interest. "Nice spot," he said. "Quiet." They unloaded the supplies together. Joe looked at the damaged roof and nodded. "Storm hit you pretty hard," he said. "I can fix it," Samuel said. "I'm sure you can." Joe paused. "Samuel, can I ask you something?" Samuel tensed up. Here it comes, he thought. Questions about the fire, about why he left, about why he never came back. But Joe surprised him. "You ever get lonely up here?" Samuel thought about it. "Sometimes. You know, if you ever want to come down to town for dinner or just to talk, you're welcome at my place. My wife makes good tamales." Samuel nodded but did not answer. Joe seemed to understand. "Well," Joe said, "I better get back to the store. You need anything else, you let me know." After Joe left, Samuel started working on his roof. The physical work felt good. It kept his mind busy and his hands occupied. But as he worked, he kept thinking about what he had heard in the diner. A woman named Elena Hartwell was dying of cancer. She had 2 little girls. They lived in a farmhouse that was falling apart. They had no one to help them. Samuel tried to push the thoughts away. It was not his problem. He had his own troubles. He had chosen to live alone for good reasons, but the thoughts kept coming back. He remembered being 8 years old himself when his own father had died. He remembered how scared he had been, how lost. His mother had struggled to take care of him and his younger sister. They had almost lost their house. Samuel worked until the sun went down. He had replaced about half of the damaged shingles. His hands were sore and his back ached, but the work had been good for him. That night, Samuel made dinner on his small stove, rice and beans from a can. Simple food, but it filled his stomach. He sat at his table and looked at the photo of Mary and Emma. "There's a woman dying down in town," he said to the photo. "She has 2 little girls. No one to help them." Mary's smile looked back at him from the picture. Emma's gap-toothed grin seemed to ask him a question he did not want to answer. Samuel had saved some money over the years. Not much, but enough. He did not need much to live on the mountain. He grew some of his own vegetables in the summer. He hunted deer and rabbits for meat. He cut his own firewood. But what would he do with the money when he died? He had no family left, no friends, no one who would miss him when he was gone. Samuel went to bed early, but again he did not sleep well. He kept thinking about those 2 little girls, Maya and Lucy, 8 years old and a baby, living in a house with broken windows and a leaking roof, watching their mother die. The next morning, Samuel finished fixing his roof. The work went faster than he expected. By noon, his cabin was dry and solid again. Samuel stood on his ladder and looked down at the town of Cedar Hollow in the valley below. Somewhere down there was a farmhouse on Willow Creek Road. Somewhere down there were 2 little girls who needed help. Samuel climbed down from the ladder and went inside his cabin. He washed his hands and face. He looked at himself in the mirror. The same wild-haired, bearded man looked back at him. But something was different. Something had changed during his trip to town. For 7 years, Samuel had thought only about himself and his pain. For 7 years, he had hidden from the world and its problems. But now he knew about Elena Hartwell and her daughters. He could not unknown it. He could not pretend they did not exist. Samuel put on his coat and started walking down the mountain again. He did not know what he was going to do when he found the farmhouse on Willow Creek Road. He just knew he had to see it for himself. The walk took him 2 hours. When he reached town, he asked directions from a man at the gas station. The man looked at Samuel strangely but told him how to find Willow Creek Road. Samuel walked out of town on a dirt road that wound through fields and woods. He passed several small farms and old houses. Some looked well kept. Others were clearly abandoned. Then he saw it, a small white farmhouse with a sagging front porch and broken shutters. The yard was overgrown with weeds. A rusty car sat in the driveway, its tires flat. Samuel stopped walking and stared at the house. Smoke was coming from the chimney, so someone was home. As he watched, he saw a small face appear at one of the front windows. A child's face, pale and serious. The face disappeared quickly, but Samuel had seen enough. This was the place. This was where Elena Hartwell lived with her daughters Maya and Lucy. Samuel stood at the edge of the property for a long time, not sure what to do next. Finally, he started walking toward the front door. He did not know what he would say, but he had come this far. He was about to knock when the door opened. A little girl stood there looking up at him with big dark eyes. She was thin and small, but she stood straight and held her chin up. She was not afraid, even though she should have been. Samuel was a stranger, a big man with wild hair and a beard. The little girl looked at him for a moment, then she spoke and her words hit Samuel like a punch to the chest. "Are you here to hurt our mama too?" she said. "She's dying." Samuel stared down at the little girl in the doorway. Her words echoed in his mind. "Are you here to hurt our mama too? She's dying." The child could not have been more than 8 years old, but her eyes looked much older. She wore a faded blue dress that was too big for her thin frame. Her dark hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. Behind her, Samuel could see another child, much smaller, peeking out from behind her sister's legs. Samuel started to speak, then stopped. His throat felt dry. "I am not here to hurt anyone." The little girl studied his face. She did not move from the doorway or invite him in. That's what the other man said too, but he made Mama cry. Samuel felt his chest tighten. What other man? The man with the papers. He said we had to pay money or leave our house. Mama told him we don't have money, but he didn't care. He made her cry. A bill collector, Samuel realized. Or maybe someone from the bank. People coming to take what little this family had left. "My name is Samuel," he said slowly. "I live up on the mountain. I heard in town that your mama is sick. I thought maybe I could help. The little girl's eyes narrowed. Help how? Samuel looked past her into the house. Through the open door he could see a small living room with old furniture. A blanket was spread on the couch and medicine bottles sat on a table. He could smell something cooking. Soup, maybe. Is your mama home? Samuel asked. She's sleeping, the girl said quickly. She sleeps a lot now. The medicine makes her tired. What's your name? The girl hesitated, then said, Maya. This is Lucy. She pulled the smaller child forward slightly. Lucy looked about 4 years old, with the same dark hair as her sister, but lighter eyes. She sucked her thumb and stared at Samuel with curiosity, rather than fear. Hi, Lucy, Samuel said softly. The little girl smiled around her thumb. Maya was still watching Samuel carefully. You really live on the mountain? All by yourself? Yes. That's where the bears live, Lucy said, taking her thumb out of her mouth. And wolves. There are some bears, Samuel agreed, but they mostly leave me alone. Are you a hermit? Maya asked, like in the stories. Samuel almost smiled. I suppose I am. Maya seemed to relax a little. Why did you come down here? Samuel thought about how to answer. The truth was too complicated for a child. He had come because he could not stop thinking about them. Because he remembered what it felt like to be scared and alone. Because something about their situation reminded him of his own daughter, who would have been about Maya's age now if she had lived. I thought you might need some help fixing things, he said finally. Maya looked at him suspiciously. We don't have money to pay anyone. I was not thinking about money. Then why would you help us? Samuel did not have a good answer for that. Because someone should, he said. Maya was quiet for a moment. Then she said, Mama says we can't trust strangers. Bad things happen when you trust the wrong people. Samuel nodded. Your mama is right. You should not trust me. You do not know me. This seemed to confuse Maya. But you just said you wanted to help us. I do, but you should still be careful. Lucy tugged on Maya's dress. I'm hungry, she whispered. Maya's face changed. The adult expression came back, the one that made her look older than her years. We're eating soup for dinner, she told her sister. The same soup we had for lunch. Samuel could hear the tiredness in Maya's voice. This little girl was trying to take care of her dying mother and her baby sister. She was probably cooking and cleaning and doing all the grown-up work while pretending everything was fine. What kind of soup? Samuel asked. Tomato, Maya said. From a can. It's all we have left. Samuel reached into his pocket and pulled out his wallet. He had some money left from buying the roofing supplies. Can I give you some money to buy more food? Maya stepped back. No. Mama says we don't take charity. It's not charity, Samuel said. It's payment. For what? Samuel thought quickly. For letting me rest here for a few minutes. I walked a long way from town. Maya looked at him doubtfully. You don't look tired. Samuel was beginning to understand that this little girl was very smart. Too smart for her own good, maybe. May I sit on your porch for a minute? He asked. Just to rest. Maya considered this. Finally, she nodded. I guess that's okay, but you can't come inside. Mama's sleeping, and we're not supposed to let strangers in the house. Samuel sat down, on the porch steps. They creaked under his weight. Maya sat down too, but kept some distance between them. Lucy came and sat right next to her sister. How long has your mama been sick? Samuel asked. 2 years, Maya said. Ever since Lucy turned 2. First she just got tired a lot. Then she started getting thin. Then the doctors said it was cancer. Samuel nodded. That must be scary for you. Maya shrugged, trying to act brave. We manage okay. But Samuel could see the truth. The broken shutters on the windows. The weeds growing in the yard. The rusty car that probably did not run. Maya was trying her best, but she was still just a child. The roof leaks when it rains, Lucy said suddenly. We put buckets out to catch the water. Lucy, Maya said sharply. Don't tell him that. Why not? Lucy asked. Because. Maya struggled to find an answer. Just because. Samuel understood. Maya was trying to hide how bad things really were. She was protecting her family's dignity, even from a stranger who said he wanted to help. My roof leaked too, Samuel said. That's why I came down to town. I had to buy supplies to fix it. Did you fix it? Lucy asked. Yes, it was not too hard. Just needed new shingles and some tar paper. Maya was listening now, though she was trying not to look interested. Is your mama awake much during the day? Samuel asked. Some, Maya said, carefully. She's awake more in the morning. The pain medicine makes her sleepy in the afternoon. Samuel nodded. He was beginning to form a plan, though he was not sure it would work. I am going to go back to town now, he said, standing up. But I would like to come back tomorrow morning if that's okay with your mama. Why? Maya asked. To talk to her about fixing some things around here. Your roof, maybe. Those broken shutters. Maya stood up too. We can't pay you. I told you. I am not thinking about money. Then why would you do it? Samuel looked at Maya's serious face, then at Lucy, who was still sucking her thumb. How could he explain to these children that he needed to help them as much as they needed help? That doing something good might help heal the broken places in his own heart? Because your mama should not have to worry about a leaking roof when she is sick, he said finally. And because little girls should not have to take care of everything by themselves. Maya's eyes filled with tears, but she blinked them away. Quickly. Mama tries to take care of us. I know she does. But sometimes everyone needs help. Maya was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, if you come back tomorrow, you have to wait until Mama wakes up. And you have to ask her permission before you do anything. I will, Samuel promised, and you can't come inside unless she says it's okay. I understand, Maya nodded. Okay then, but don't come too early. Mama needs her sleep. Samuel started, walking away, then turned back. Maya? What? You are doing a good job taking care of your family. Maya's chin trembled slightly, but she lifted it up. I know. Samuel walked back to town as the sun was setting. His mind was full of thoughts and plans. The farmhouse needed a lot of work. New shingles for the roof, the shutters repaired or replaced. The windows needed glass. The porch steps were rotting, but more than that, the family needed food and medicine and heat for the winter. Elena Hartwell needed better medical care. Maya needed to be a child instead of a caretaker. Lucy needed to not be hungry. Samuel had money saved, but not enough for everything. He would have to be smart about how he spent it. That night, Samuel slept in his truck again behind the hardware store. But this time, he slept better. For the first time in 7 years, he had something to do besides hide from the world. The next morning, Samuel went to the grocery store and bought supplies. Soup and bread and milk and eggs, apples and oranges for the children, medicine for pain and fever, vitamins. Then he went to the hardware store and talked to Joe Martinez about lumber and tools. You planning to build something? Joe asked. Fix something? Samuel said. A house that needs repairs. Joe looked at him curiously but did not ask more questions. Samuel loaded everything into his truck and drove out to Willow Creek Road. When he arrived at the farmhouse, Maya was sitting on the porch steps waiting for him. Mama's awake, she said. She wants to talk to you. Samuel took a deep breath. This was the hard part. Convincing a proud, dying woman to let a stranger help her family. He followed Maya to the front door, carrying a bag of groceries. Through the screen door, he could see a thin woman lying on the couch in the living room. Her hair was covered with a colorful scarf and her face was pale but alert. Elena Hartwell looked at Samuel for a long moment before speaking. So, she said, her voice weak but steady. You are the mountain man my daughter told me about. Samuel nodded. Yes, ma'am. My name is Samuel Crow. Maya says you want to fix my roof, if you will let me. Elena studied his face. Why? Samuel had thought about this question all night. Because I can, he said simply. And because you need it done. Elena was quiet for a moment. Then she said, Mr. Crow, I do not know what you have heard about us in town, but we are not a charity case. I did not think you were, Samuel said. Then what do you want in return? Samuel arrived at the farmhouse early the next morning, just as the sun was coming up over the hills. He brought his tools and some lumber Joe Martinez had helped him load into the truck. Maya was already awake, sitting on the porch steps with a bowl of cereal. Mama's still sleeping, Maya said when she saw him. She had a bad night. The pain was worse. Samuel nodded and began unloading his tools quietly. He had learned to work without making much noise during his years alone on the mountain. Can I watch? Maya asked. If your mama says it's okay when she wakes up. Lucy appeared in the doorway, still in her pajamas. Her hair was messy from sleep and she was carrying a stuffed rabbit that had seen better days. Who's that? She asked Maya, pointing at Samuel. That's the mountain man, remember? He's going to fix our roof. Lucy nodded solemnly and sat down next to her sister to watch Samuel work. Samuel climbed up on the roof carefully. It was in worse shape than his own had been. Several shingles were missing completely, and others were loose or cracked. In some places he could see clear through to the wood underneath. He started by pulling off the damaged shingles. Maya and Lucy watched from below, whispering to each other. Samuel could not hear what they were saying, but Lucy kept giggling at something Maya told her. After about an hour, Elena appeared on the porch. She was wearing a blue robe and had a cup of coffee in her hands. Even from the roof, Samuel could see how thin she had become. The robe hung loose on her small frame. Good morning, Mr. Crow, she called up to him. Good morning, Samuel called back. I hope I did not wake you. You didn't. The girls did. They were excited about watching you work. Samuel climbed down from the roof to talk to her. How are you feeling today? Elena shrugged. Some days are better than others. Today is not too bad. That's good. Elena looked at the pile of old shingles Samuel had removed. It's worse than I thought, isn't it? It needs work, Samuel admitted. But it can be fixed. How long will it take? A few days, maybe. Depends on the weather. Elena nodded. Mr. Crow, can I ask you something? Yes. Are you married? Do you have children? Samuel felt his chest tighten. I was married. I had a daughter. They died 7 years ago. Elena's face softened. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have asked. It's all right. People wonder. Is that why you live alone on the mountain? Samuel looked up at the roof, then back at Elena. Partly. Elena was quiet for a moment. Then she said, Maya, will you take Lucy inside and get her dressed and maybe start some breakfast? Can't we watch? Maya asked. You can watch later. Go help your sister now. Maya looked disappointed but obeyed. She took Lucy's hand and led her into the house. When they were alone, Elena sat down on the porch steps. Samuel remained standing. My husband died 4 years ago, Elena said. Car accident. He was coming home from work in the rain and another driver ran a red light. Samuel nodded. I'm sorry. Thank you. The thing is, I thought I knew what grief was. I thought losing him was the worst thing that could happen to me. Elena took a sip of her coffee. Then I got sick, and I realized there are worse things than dying, like leaving your children alone. Samuel understood. The fear in Elena's voice was something he recognized. Maya's trying so hard to be the grown-up, Elena continued. She cooks and cleans and takes care of Lucy. She helps me with my medicine. She's 8 years old, Mr. Crow. She should be playing with dolls and learning to ride a bike. She seems like a strong child. Too strong. Sometimes I catch her crying in her room at night and I know it's because she's scared. But during the day, she pretends everything is fine. Samuel looked through the screen door. He could hear Maya's voice in the kitchen, talking to Lucy about what they should have for breakfast. What will happen to them when you... Samuel started to ask, then stopped. When I die? Elena finished. I don't know. I have no family left. My parents died when I was young and I was an only child. My husband's parents are both gone too. Social services? Elena's face grew hard. They want to split the girls up. They say it's easier to place them separately. Maya would go to one family, Lucy to another. Samuel felt angry. That's not right. No, it's not. But what choice do I have? I can't take care of them anymore and there's no one else. Samuel wanted to say something helpful, but he did not know what. He had no experience with such things. Mr. Crow, Elena said, can I ask you another question? Sure. Why are you really here? The truth this time. Samuel thought about lying, or giving her another simple answer, but something about Elena's direct gaze made him want to be honest. I heard about your situation in town, he said. I could not stop thinking about it. I kept thinking about Maya and Lucy and how scared they must be. And I guess I know what it feels like to lose everything. I thought maybe I could help somehow. Elena studied his face. You lost your wife and daughter in some kind of accident? Samuel's throat felt tight. A house fire. I was supposed to be home, but I was working late. They were asleep when it started. By the time the fire department got there. He could not finish the sentence. You blame yourself, Elena said softly. Samuel nodded. Mr. Crow, can I tell you something? As someone who's about to die? Samuel looked at her. Blame is a poison. It kills you slowly from the inside. I spent 2 years blaming myself for my husband's death. If I hadn't asked him to stop at the store on his way home, he would have been through that intersection 5 minutes earlier. If I hadn't been so tired that day, I would have gone with him. But it wasn't your fault, Samuel said. And your wife and daughter's deaths weren't yours either. Samuel had heard those words before, from doctors and counselors and well-meaning friends. But somehow, hearing them from Elena felt different. Before he could respond, Maya came back, outside. Mama, Lucy spilled orange juice on the floor. I'll clean it up in a minute, Elena said. I already did it, Maya said proudly. Elena smiled at her daughter. Thank you, baby. You're such a good helper. Maya beamed at the praise, and Samuel could see how much she needed her mother's approval. Mr. Crow, Maya said, can I help you fix the roof? Maya, Elena said. Mr. Crow doesn't need help from an 8-year-old. Actually, Samuel said, I could use someone to hand me tools, if it's okay with your mama. Maya looked at Elena hopefully. Suppose that would be all right, Elena said. But you have to be very careful and you have to do exactly what Mr. Crow tells you. I will, Maya promised. For the rest of the morning, Samuel worked on the roof with Maya helping from the ground. She would hand him nails or tools when he asked for them. She was a good helper, careful and eager to please. Lucy played nearby with her stuffed rabbit, making up stories and talking to herself. Occasionally she would run over to show Samuel something she had found. A pretty rock, a flower, a caterpillar. Elena stayed on the porch watching them work. Samuel could see her getting tired as the morning went on, but she seemed to enjoy watching her daughters interact with someone new. Around noon, Elena went inside to rest. Maya made sandwiches for lunch and they all ate together on the porch. Lucy chattered about her rabbit and asked Samuel dozens of questions about living on the mountain. Do you have a TV? She asked. No, Samuel said. What do you do at night? Read books, listen to the radio sometimes. Don't you get lonely? The question caught Samuel off guard. Sometimes, he admitted. We could visit you, Lucy said. I like mountains. Maya shook her head. Lucy, we can't just invite ourselves to someone's house. Why not? Lucy asked. Maya looked embarrassed. Because it's not polite. Samuel looked at Maya's serious face and Lucy's innocent one. You could visit if you wanted to, he said. If your mama said it was okay. Lucy clapped her hands. Could we, Maya? Could we go see where he lives? We'll see, Maya said. But Samuel could tell she was interested too. That afternoon, Samuel continued working on the roof. The weather was good, sunny and warm with no wind. He made good progress, replacing the damaged shingles and fixing the weak spots in the wood underneath. Maya helped when she could, but she also had to take care of Lucy and check on Elena. Samuel watched her moving between tasks, bringing her mother water and medicine, helping Lucy use the bathroom, starting dinner preparations. The child was doing the work of an adult, and it broke Samuel's heart. Around 4 o'clock, storm clouds began gathering in the west. Samuel could smell rain in the air. Looks like weather coming, he told Maya. Maya looked at the sky with worry. Will the roof leak? Not where I've already fixed it, but I should cover the parts I haven't finished yet. Samuel climbed down and got a tarp from his truck. He stretched it over the unfinished section of roof and secured it with nails. There, he said. That should keep you dry tonight. Just then, Elena appeared in the doorway. She looked pale and unsteady on her feet. Maya, she said, her voice weak. I need you to help me to bed. Maya dropped the tools she was holding and ran to her mother. Samuel watched as the little girl helped Elena walk slowly back into the house. Lucy stood next to Samuel, holding her rabbit. Mama has bad days and good days, she said matter-of-factly. Today was a good day until now. Samuel felt a lump in his throat. Lucy was too young to understand what was happening, but she knew something was wrong. Maya came back outside after a few minutes. Her face was calm, but Samuel could see the worry in her eyes. Is your mama okay? He asked. Samuel moved into the small room that had once been Elena's husband's office. It was barely big enough for a single bed and a dresser, but it was more space than he needed. He had learned to live with very little during his years on the mountain. First few days were awkward for everyone. Maya watched Samuel carefully, still not sure she trusted him completely. Lucy warmed up to him quickly, but she was confused about why this strange man was suddenly living in their house. Elena spent most of her time sleeping, the cancer and chemotherapy leaving her weak and nauseous. Samuel tried to make himself useful without getting in the way. He finished repairing the roof and fixed the broken shutters on the windows. He replaced the rotting boards on the front porch and got the old car running again. When Elena felt well enough, he drove her to her doctor appointments in town. But it was the small daily things that mattered most. Making coffee in the morning before Maya woke up. Helping Lucy get dressed when Elena was too tired to do it. Cooking simple meals that Elena might be able to keep down. Maya still insisted on doing most of the housework herself. She had been taking care of her family for so long that she did not know how to let someone else help. Samuel watched her struggle with loads of laundry that were too heavy for her small arms, but when he offered to help, she would shake her head stubbornly. I can do it, she would say. I've been doing it for months. I know you can. Samuel would reply, but maybe you don't have to do it alone anymore. It took almost a week before Maya finally let Samuel help her carry the laundry basket outside to hang clothes on the line. Elena's good days became fewer and farther between. On her bad days, she could barely get out of bed. The pain medication made her sleep most of the time, but when she was awake, she worried constantly about her daughters. What will happen to them when I'm gone? She asked Samuel one evening. They were sitting on the front porch while Maya and Lucy played in the yard. Social services wants to split them up. Maya would never forgive me if that happened. Samuel watched Lucy chasing fireflies while Maya sat on the porch steps, reading a book by the light from the window. Maybe there's another way, he said. Like, what? Samuel had been thinking about this for days, but he was not sure he was brave enough to say it out loud. Maybe someone could adopt them, someone who would keep them together. Elena looked at him sharply. Who? I don't have any family left, and neither did my husband. Samuel was quiet for a moment. Maybe someone they already know. Someone they trust. Elena stared at him. Samuel, What are you saying? I'm saying maybe I could. He stopped suddenly, afraid. I'm saying maybe I could take care of them if you wanted, if you thought I could. Elena's eyes filled with tears. Samuel, you don't understand what you're offering. Children need so much. They need love and patience and stability. They need someone who can help them with homework and take them to doctor appointments and remember to buy them new shoes when they outgrow their old ones. I know. Maya will need help dealing with losing me. She'll be angry and sad and scared. Lucy won't understand why her mama never comes home. They'll both need counseling and probably therapy. I know, Samuel said again. And you'd have to live in town, not up on your mountain. Children need schools and friends and activities. Samuel nodded. He had thought about all of this. Elena was quiet for a long time. Finally, she said, "Can I ask you something very personal?" Yes. Do you think you could love them? Really love them, not just take care of them? Samuel looked at Maya, who was patiently helping Lucy catch a firefly without hurting it. Lucy was giggling and Maya was smiling, and for a moment they looked like normal, happy children instead of orphans in waiting. I think I already do, Samuel said quietly. Elena reached over and took his hand. Hers was thin and cold, but her grip was firm. Then we need to talk to a lawyer, she said. If this is going to work, we need to make it legal before. She did not finish the sentence. The next day, Samuel drove Elena to town to meet with a lawyer named Robert Chen. Elena was having a good day, alert and determined to get her affairs in order. Mr. Chen was a kind man in his 50s who had known Elena since she was young. He listened carefully as Elena explained what she wanted. It's possible, he said when she finished. But it won't be easy. Samuel will need to go through a background check and a home study. Social services will want to interview him extensively. How long will all of that take? Elena asked. Mr. Chen looked uncomfortable. Several months, usually, maybe longer. Elena's face fell. They all knew she did not have several months. However, Mr. Chen continued, there might be another way. If Samuel were to become the children's guardian while the adoption process is ongoing, that would keep them together and out of the foster care system. How do we make that happen? Samuel asked. Elena would need to name you as the children's guardian in her will, and you'd need to petition the court for emergency guardianship when the time comes. Elena nodded. Let's do it. All of it. I want every legal protection for my girls that we can get. They spent the next 2 hours going over paperwork and legal details. When they finally left the lawyer's office, Elena was exhausted but relieved. Thank you, she said to Samuel as they drove home. I know this isn't what you planned when you came down from the mountain. Plans change, Samuel said. That evening, Elena called Maya and Lucy into the living room. She had decided to tell them what was happening, at least part of it. Girls, she said, you know that Mama is very sick. Maya nodded seriously. Lucy climbed up on the couch next to Elena and curled up against her side. Well, the doctors say I might have to go to the hospital for a while. Maybe for a long time. When? Maya asked. I don't know yet. But when that happens, Samuel is going to stay here and take care of you. Lucy looked at Samuel, who was sitting in the chair across the room. Will you read me stories like Mama does? If you want me to, Samuel said. Maya was studying Elena's face. She was too smart not to understand what her mother was really saying. Mama, Maya said carefully, are you going to come back from the hospital? Elena's breath caught. She had hoped Maya would not ask that question directly. I don't know, sweetheart, she said honestly. But I know that Samuel will take good care of you and Lucy, no matter what happens. Maya nodded, but Samuel could see the fear in her eyes. That night, after the girls were in bed, Samuel found Maya sitting on the front porch steps. She was staring up at the stars and crying quietly. Samuel sat down next to her but did not say anything at first. She's going to die, isn't she? Maya said finally. Samuel considered lying, trying to give the child false hope. But Maya deserved the truth. Yes, he said gently. I think she is. Maya cried harder then, and Samuel awkwardly put his arm around her small shoulders. He was not used to comforting children, but Maya leaned against him and seemed to find some comfort in his presence. "I'm scared," Maya whispered. "I know you are. What if you decide you don't want us? What if you leave?" Samuel felt his heart break a little. "Maya, I promise you I will not leave. No matter what happens, I will take care of you and Lucy. But you don't really know us. We might be too much trouble." Samuel turned to look at Maya's tear-streaked face. "Can I tell you something?" Maya nodded. 7 years ago, I lost my wife and daughter in a fire. Their names were Mary and Emma. Emma was about your age. Maya's eyes grew wide. "After they died, I thought I would never care about anyone ever again. I went to live on the mountain because I was too sad and too scared to be around people." "But then you came here," Maya said. "Yes. And you know what I discovered?" "What?" "I discovered that caring about people again doesn't hurt as much as being alone forever." Maya was quiet for a moment. "Do you miss them? Mary and Emma?" "Every day," Samuel said. "But missing them doesn't mean I can't love other people too." "Do you love me and Lucy?" Samuel looked at this brave, serious little girl who had been carrying the weight of the world on her small shoulders. "Yes," he said. "I do." Maya smiled for the first time since they had started talking. "I love you too, Samuel. And I think Mama does too." The next few weeks passed quickly. Elena's condition continued to deteriorate, but she had good moments too. Moments when she felt well enough to play with Lucy or help Maya with her reading. Samuel treasured those times, watching Elena interact with her daughters and trying to memorize everything so he could tell the girls about it later. Samuel also began preparing for his new role as a father. He read books about child development and parenting. He learned about the local schools and what activities were available for children. He started a savings account for the girls' future education. But mostly, he just tried to be present. He learned that Lucy liked her toast cut into triangles and that Maya was afraid of thunderstorms. He discovered that both girls loved to hear stories, and he began making up tales about his life on the mountain, carefully editing out the loneliness and despair. One evening, Lucy developed a fever. Elena was having a particularly bad day and could barely stay awake, so Samuel took charge. He gave Lucy medicine and sat by her bed, reading stories and singing the lullabies he remembered Mary singing to Emma. Maya hovered nearby, worried about her sister and uncertain whether Samuel knew what he was doing. "She'll be okay," Samuel assured Maya. "It's just a little fever, but we'll watch her tonight too." Word traveled fast in a small town like Cedar Hollow. Within a week of Samuel moving into the Hartwell farmhouse, everyone seemed to know about the strange mountain hermit who was living with the dying woman and her 2 daughters. At first, the talk was mostly curious. People wondered what Samuel was doing there and why Elena had let a stranger into her home. But as days passed, the whispers became darker. Samuel first noticed the change when he took Maya and Lucy to the grocery store. People stared at them more than usual. Conversations stopped when they walked down the aisles. The cashier, a young woman named Beth, looked nervous when she rang up their groceries. "How's Elena doing?" Beth asked carefully. "Some days are better than others," Samuel replied. Beth nodded but did not ask any more questions. Samuel could feel her watching them as they left the store. The next day, when Samuel went to the hardware store to buy materials for fixing the farmhouse's broken windows, Joe Martinez looked uncomfortable. "Samuel," Joe said quietly, "I need to tell you something. People are talking." "About what?" Joe glanced around to make sure no other customers were listening. "About you living with Elena and the girls. Some folks think it's strange." "Strange how?" "A single man living with a woman and her children. You know how people's minds work." Samuel felt anger rising in his chest. "Elena is dying, Joe. Those little girls need help." "I know that," Joe said quickly. "And I think what you're doing is good. But not everyone sees it that way." "What are they saying exactly?" Joe looked even more uncomfortable. "Some people remember what happened before, with your family. They're wondering if maybe you're not stable." Samuel's hands clenched into fists. My wife and daughter died in a fire, Joe. That doesn't make me dangerous. I know that. But people talk, and stories get twisted. Some folks are saying you might have started that fire yourself. Samuel stared at Joe in shock. What? I'm not saying it's true, Joe said quickly. I'm just telling you what I've heard. Mrs. Peterson's been telling people that you always seemed off to her. And Bob Kelly remembers that you left town right after the fire, like you were running from something. Samuel felt sick. These people had known him for years before the tragedy. They had known Mary and Emma. How could they think such terrible things about him? Joe, you know me, Samuel said. You know I would never hurt anyone. I know that, Joe repeated, but not everyone does. And now you're living with Elena and her girls, and people are worried. That afternoon, Samuel was working in the garden, behind the farmhouse, when Sheriff Tom Bradley pulled up in his patrol car. Samuel had known Tom for years. They had gone to high school together. Afternoon, Samuel, Tom said, getting out of his car. Tom. Samuel straightened up and wiped his hands on his jeans. Heard you've been staying here with Elena and the kids. That's right. Tom looked around the property, taking in the repaired roof and the freshly painted shutters. Place looks good, you've been busy. Elena needed help with some repairs. Tom nodded. How's she doing? Elena, I mean. Not well. The cancer's getting worse. I'm sorry to hear that. Tom paused. Samuel, I need to ask you something, and I hope you won't take offense. Samuel felt his stomach tighten. What is it? I've had some people express concerns about you living here, with the children. What kind of concerns? Well, you've been gone a long time. People don't know you anymore. And with Elena being so sick, she might not be thinking clearly about who she lets around her kids. Samuel felt his temper rising, but he tried to keep his voice calm. Tom, those children needed help. Elena can barely get out of bed most days. Maya was trying to take care of everything by herself. I understand that, and I'm sure your intentions are good. But I have to ask, has Elena made any legal arrangements? Naming you as guardian or anything like that? Samuel hesitated. Elena had signed the papers, but they were not filed with the court yet. Mr. Chen had said they would wait until Elena was closer to the end. We've talked to a lawyer, Samuel said carefully. Good. That's good. Tom looked relieved. Because if something happened to Elena, social services would need to know what the arrangements are for the kids. Nothing's going to happen that we haven't planned for. Tom nodded, but Samuel could see he was not entirely satisfied with the answer. Samuel, can I give you some advice? As an old friend? Samuel waited. Maybe think about getting those legal papers filed sooner rather than later. And maybe consider having some other people vouch for you. Character references, that sort of thing. Why? What aren't you telling me, Tom? Tom looked uncomfortable. There's been talk about calling social services, having them do a welfare check on the children. Samuel felt cold. Who's been talking about that? I can't say. But Samuel, if social services shows up and finds an unofficial arrangement, they might remove the kids immediately, just to be safe. That evening, Samuel told Elena about his conversations with Joe and Tom. Elena was having one of her better days, alert and able to sit up in bed. I was afraid this would happen, Elena said sadly. Small towns don't like change, and you've been away so long, people don't remember who you really are. What should we do? Elena thought for a moment. We need to file those guardianship papers with Mr. Chen immediately, and we need to prepare Maya and Lucy for what might happen. What do you mean? If social services comes, they'll want to interview the girls. They'll ask them questions about you, about how you treat them, about whether they feel safe. Samuel felt panicked. What if Maya and Lucy say the wrong thing? What if they're scared and confused? They won't say the wrong thing, Elena said firmly, because there is no wrong thing to say. You've been nothing but kind and gentle with them. They trust you, and that will show. But Samuel was not reassured. Maya was still cautious around him sometimes, still insisting on doing things herself. And Lucy was so young. What if she misunderstood the questions? The next morning, Samuel drove to Mr. Chen's office. The lawyer agreed to file the guardianship papers immediately. "It will help," Mr. Chen said. "But until the court approves the arrangement, you're still technically just a family friend who's helping out. How long will the court approval take?" "A few weeks, probably. Maybe longer if there are any objections." "What kind of objections?" Mr. Chen looked uncomfortable. "Well, if someone files a complaint about you with social services, that could delay things." Samuel felt his heart sink. "Has someone filed a complaint?" "Not that I know of. But I wanted you to be prepared for the possibility." That afternoon, Samuel was playing in the yard with Lucy when a white car pulled up to the house. A woman in a business suit got out carrying a briefcase. Samuel's blood ran cold. Social services. The woman walked up to the porch where Samuel and Lucy were sitting. Maya appeared in the doorway, drawn by the sound of the car. "Good afternoon," the woman said. "I'm Carol Morrison from the Department of Children and Family Services. I'm here to do a welfare check." Samuel stood up slowly. "Is there a problem?" "We received a report about the living situation here. I need to speak with the children and their mother." Maya stepped protectively in front of Lucy. "What kind of report?" Ms. Morrison smiled at Maya, but it was a professional smile, not a warm one. "Just routine questions, honey, to make sure everyone is safe and healthy." "Who made the report?" Samuel asked. "I can't share that information." "May I come inside?" Samuel wanted to say no, but he knew that would only make things worse. "Elena, Mrs. Hartwell is resting. She's very ill. I understand. I'll try not to disturb her too much." Samuel led Ms. Morrison into the house. Elena was lying on the couch in the living room, covered with a blanket. She looked pale and weak, but her eyes were alert. "Mrs. Hartwell," Ms. Morrison said. "I'm Carol Morrison from DCFS. I need to ask you some questions about your living arrangements." Elena struggled to sit up. "What kind of questions? Are you able to care for your children adequately in your current condition?" "I do my best," Elena said carefully. "And Mr. Crow here? What is his relationship to your family?" "He's a friend." "Who's helping us?" "How long have you known him?" Elena hesitated. The truth was she had only known Samuel for a few weeks, long enough to trust him with my children. Ms. Morrison made notes on her clipboard. "Mr. Crow, do you have a background in child care?" "No," Samuel admitted, "but I'm learning." "Have you undergone a background check?" "We've filed guardianship papers with the court," Elena said. "My lawyer has all the documentation." Ms. Morrison nodded but continued writing. "I need to speak with the children separately. Is there a private room where we can talk?" Samuel felt his stomach twist. This was what he had been afraid of. "Maya, Lucy," Elena said gently. "This lady wants to ask you some questions. Just tell her the truth, okay?" Maya nodded seriously, but Samuel could see she was scared. Lucy moved closer to Samuel and took his hand. Ms. Morrison noticed the gesture and made another note on her clipboard. She interviewed Maya first, taking her into Elena's bedroom and closing the door. Samuel could hear the murmur of voices but could not make out the words. Elena lay back down on the couch, exhausted from the effort of sitting up. "It will be okay," she whispered to Samuel. "Maya's a smart girl." After 20 minutes, Maya came out of the bedroom. Her face was calm, but Samuel could see the tension in her shoulders. "Lucy's turn," Ms. Morrison said. Samuel spent 6 hours at the police station. They questioned him about every interaction he had had with Maya and Lucy. They asked about his past, about the fire that killed his family, about why he had lived alone on the mountain for 7 years. Tom Bradley conducted most of the questioning, and Samuel could see that his old friend was torn between doing his job and believing in Samuel's innocence. "Samuel," Tom said during a break, "help me understand something. You've been a hermit for 7 years. You avoided all human contact. Then suddenly you're living with a family, taking care of children. That's a big change. What really brought you down from that mountain?" Samuel thought about how to answer. "I heard about Elena and the girls in town. I couldn't stop thinking about them. Why? You didn't know them. Samuel was quiet for a moment. I guess I recognized their situation. I know what it feels like to lose everything. So you wanted to help them? Yes. And you didn't think it might look strange? A single man living with children who aren't his? Samuel felt frustrated. Tom, I was thinking about two little girls who needed help. I wasn't thinking about how it would look to other people. Maybe you should have been. The questioning continued. They asked about his finances, about whether Elena was paying him, about whether he had ever been alone with the children. Samuel answered every question honestly, but he could see doubt in some of the officers' eyes. Finally, Mr. Chen arrived with a lawyer named Patricia Walsh, who specialized in family law. Mr. Crow, Ms. Walsh said after reviewing his case, I'm going to be direct with you. The allegations against you are serious, even though they're unsubstantiated. The mere fact that they've been made puts you in a difficult position. What kind of allegations exactly? Samuel asked. Ms. Walsh looked uncomfortable. Someone reported seeing you touching Lucy inappropriately. Specifically, they claimed they saw you putting your hands on her in a way that seemed inappropriate. Samuel felt sick. That's insane. I would never. I believe you, Ms. Walsh said. But the problem is, in cases involving children, the authorities err on the side of caution. Even false allegations can have serious consequences. What happens now? Well, the good news is that both children were interviewed again by social services while you were here. They both adamantly defended you. Maya especially was very articulate about your character and behavior. Samuel felt a small spark of hope. However, Ms. Walsh continued, social services is still recommending that the children be placed in temporary foster care while the investigation continues. Samuel's heart sank. For how long? Could be weeks. Could be months. These investigations can take time. What about Elena? She's dying. Those children shouldn't be separated from their mother in her final days. Mr. Chen spoke up. That's actually where we might have some leverage. Elena's condition is documented by her doctor. Separating terminally ill patients from their children is something the courts are reluctant to do. So what are our options? Samuel asked. Ms. Walsh looked through her notes. There are a few possibilities. First, you could voluntarily remove yourself from the home while the investigation continues. That would allow the children to stay with their mother. Samuel shook his head immediately. Elena can't take care of them by herself. She can barely get out of bed. The second option is to request a court hearing for emergency guardianship. If the judge grants it, you'd have legal standing as the children's guardian, which would make it much harder for social services to remove them. How long would that take? If we file an emergency petition, we could get a hearing within a few days. And the third option? Ms. Walsh hesitated. We fight the allegations in court, but that could take months, and during that time you'd likely be prohibited from having any contact with the children. Samuel felt trapped. Every option seemed to have terrible consequences. What do you recommend? He asked. Honestly, I think we should file for emergency guardianship and hope the judge sees the situation for what it really is. A man trying to help a dying woman and her children. 3 hours later, Samuel was released from the police station. No charges were filed, but he was told the investigation would continue. When he arrived back at the farmhouse, he found Elena lying on the couch looking worse than he had ever seen her. Maya was sitting beside her, holding her hand. Lucy was curled up at the other end of the couch, sucking her thumb. Samuel, Lucy cried when she saw him. She jumped up and ran to him. Samuel caught her in a hug, feeling relief wash over him. Hi, sweetheart, I missed you. I missed you too. Are you in trouble? No, I'm not in trouble. Some people just had questions they needed to ask me. Maya looked at him with serious eyes. What did they ask you? Samuel sat down carefully, still holding Lucy. They asked me about living here with you and your mama. They wanted to make sure everyone was safe and happy. What did you tell them? The truth. That I care about you and Lucy very much, and that I would never do anything to hurt you. Elena struggled to sit up. Samuel, we need to talk. Samuel looked at the children. Maya, can you take Lucy outside for a few minutes? Maybe show her those flowers you planted. Maya nodded and took Lucy's hand. Come on, Lucy. Let's check on the garden. When they were alone, Elena looked at Samuel with exhausted eyes. How bad is it? She asked. Samuel told her about the allegations, about the investigation, about the possibility that the children might be removed from the home. Elena listened without interrupting. When he finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Who would make such accusations? She asked finally. I don't know, Tom wouldn't tell me. Elena's face grew hard. I can guess. There are people in this town who never like the fact that you came back. People who remember the old gossip and want to believe the worst. Elena, I'm so sorry. I never meant for this to happen. I just wanted to help. Elena reached over and took his hand. Samuel, listen to me. This is not your fault. You've done nothing wrong. But if they take Maya and Lucy, they won't. I won't let them. Elena, you're sick. You might not have a choice. Elena's eyes flashed with the fierce determination that Samuel had come to recognize. Even dying, she was still a mother protecting her children. I do have a choice, she said. And I'm making it now. We're filing those guardianship papers tomorrow. Emergency petition, whatever it takes. What if the judge doesn't approve it? Then, we'll fight. But Samuel, I need you to promise me something. What? No matter what happens with these false accusations, no matter what people say about you, you won't abandon Maya and Lucy. Samuel looked into Elena's eyes and saw the desperation there. She was running out of time, and she knew it. I promise, he said. Say it out loud. Promise me you'll take care of them. I promise I will take care of Maya and Lucy. I will keep them together. I will love them and protect them. Elena nodded, tears running down her cheeks. Good. Because Samuel, I'm dying. Maybe sooner than we thought. Samuel felt his stomach drop. What do you mean? I called the doctor while you were gone. The pain's getting worse and I'm having trouble breathing. He thinks maybe we're looking at days, not weeks. Samuel stared at her. Elena, which means we don't have time for a long legal battle. We need to get this guardianship approved now, before I'm too sick to advocate for my children. The next morning, Elena insisted on getting dressed and going to court with Samuel and the lawyers. She was so weak that Samuel had to help her walk, but she was determined to speak on his behalf. Maya and Lucy stayed with Mrs. Chen, Mr. Chen's wife, who had volunteered to watch them during the hearing. The courtroom was small, and there were only a few people present. Judge Harrison was an older woman with gray hair and kind eyes. She listened carefully as Ms. Walsh explained the situation. Your Honor, Ms. Walsh said, this is an unusual case. Mr. Crow is seeking emergency guardianship of 2 minor children, whose mother is terminally ill. Recent false allegations have created an urgent need for legal protection for these children. The judge looked at Samuel. Mr. Crow, why do you want to become the guardian of these children? Samuel stood up. Your Honor, I've gotten to know Maya and Lucy over the past few weeks. They're good children who've been through a lot. Their mother is dying, and they need someone to take care of them. I want to be that person. What is your relationship to the family? I'm a friend. I've been helping Elena, Mrs. Hartwell, with repairs to her home and caring for the children. Judge Harrison looked at Elena, who was sitting in a wheelchair that the courthouse had provided. Mrs. Hartwell, you want Mr. Crow to become your children's guardian? Elena's voice was weak but clear. Yes, Your Honor. Samuel has been wonderful with my daughters. They trust him, and I trust him completely. Are you aware of the allegations that have been made? Yes, Your Honor, and they're completely false. I've been present for every interaction Samuel has had with my children. He has never been inappropriate in any way. The judge was quiet for a moment, reading through the papers in front of her. Mrs. Hartwell, I have to ask this directly. Are you certain you're making this decision with a clear mind? Your medical records indicate you're on significant pain medication. Elena straightened up as much as she could. Your Honor, I may be dying, But my mind is clear. The funeral was small but filled with love. Elena had not had many friends in her final years, but the people who came truly cared about her and her daughters. Joe Martinez was there, along with his wife. Mr. and Mrs. Chen came. Even Sheriff Tom Bradley attended, looking uncomfortable but sincere. Maya wore a black dress that was too big for her thin frame. She held Lucy's hand throughout the service and did not cry, though Samuel could see the tears she was holding back. Lucy wore a white dress with pink flowers and kept asking when Mama was coming home. Samuel wore his only good suit, which was old and a little too tight. He carried Lucy when she got tired and kept his arm around Maya's shoulders. He felt the weight of responsibility settling on him like a heavy coat. After the service, people came up to offer their condolences. Most were kind, but Samuel could see the doubt in some of their eyes. They were still not sure about this arrangement, this mountain hermit suddenly becoming a father to two little girls. Mrs. Peterson, Elena's former friend, pulled Samuel aside. "I hope you know what you're doing," she said quietly. "Those girls have been through enough." "I know," Samuel replied. "I'll take good care of them." Mrs. Peterson studied his face. "I suppose we'll see, won't we?" The weeks that followed were the hardest of Samuel's life. Maya grieved quietly but intensely, often sitting alone in her room staring at photos of her mother. Lucy grieved loudly and messily, crying for Mama at random times and having nightmares almost every night. Samuel felt completely out of his depth. He had no experience comforting grieving children. He made mistakes every day, burning dinner, forgetting to pack Lucy's snack for preschool, not knowing how to braid Maya's hair for school pictures. But slowly, day by day, they figured it out together. Samuel learned that Maya needed space to grieve, but also needed to know he was there when she was ready to talk. He learned that Lucy needed extra hugs and patience when she had bad days. He learned that both girls needed routine and stability more than they needed perfection. The social worker, Ms. Rodriguez, came every week as promised. She was kind but thorough, asking the girls questions about how they were adjusting and observing how Samuel interacted with them. "The children seem well cared for," she noted after her third visit. "Maya is still struggling with grief, which is normal. Lucy is showing some signs of attachment to you, which is positive." Samuel was grateful for her support. Unlike Ms. Morrison, who had been suspicious from the beginning, Ms. Rodriguez seemed genuinely interested in what was best for Maya and Lucy. The allegations against Samuel were eventually dropped. The person who had made the false report turned out to be Mrs. Peterson, who admitted she had been concerned about the situation, but had no actual evidence of wrongdoing. She never apologized directly, but she stopped spreading rumors, which Samuel considered progress. As autumn turned to winter, Samuel made a decision that surprised everyone, including himself. Instead of taking the girls to live on his mountain, he decided to stay in the farmhouse and make it their permanent home. "But I thought you hated being around people," Maya said when he told her about his decision. "I thought I did too," Samuel replied. "But I've learned something these past few months." "What?" "Being alone isn't the same as being safe. And you and Lucy make everything better, not worse. They work together to make the farmhouse truly theirs." Samuel continued his repairs, fixing everything that was broken and adding new things that made the house more comfortable. Maya helped plan the improvements, showing a maturity that sometimes worried Samuel but also made him proud. Lucy mostly contributed by getting in the way and offering helpful suggestions like, "Let's paint everything pink." Samuel enrolled Maya in counseling to help her deal with her grief and the trauma of losing both parents. At first, Maya resisted. "I don't need to talk to a stranger about my feelings," she said stubbornly. "Maybe not," Samuel agreed. "But maybe it would help anyway." Eventually, Maya agreed to try it. She never admitted that it helped, but Samuel noticed she seemed lighter after her sessions, more willing to laugh and play. Lucy started preschool and made friends quickly. She was naturally social and outgoing, and the other children loved her cheerful personality. The teachers were kind and patient when Lucy had occasional meltdowns about missing her mama. Samuel also started therapy, something he had never considered during his years on the mountain. His therapist, Dr. Matthews, helped him understand that healing from loss didn't mean forgetting the people you had loved. You can love Mary and Emma and also love Maya and Lucy, Dr. Matthews explained. Love isn't finite. It doesn't run out when you give it to new people. This was a revelation for Samuel. For 7 years, he had believed that moving on would be a betrayal of his first family. Learning that he could honor his past while building a new future changed everything for him. Christmas that first year was complicated. The girls missed their mother terribly, and Samuel had no idea how to create the kind of Christmas Elena would have wanted for them. But Maya stepped up, as she so often did. Mama always made cookies, she told Samuel. Chocolate chip and sugar, cookies shaped like Christmas trees. Do you know how to make them? Samuel asked. Mama taught me last year. I can show you. So they spent an afternoon making cookies, with Maya directing and Lucy helping by eating more dough than made it into the oven. Samuel burned the first batch and oversalted the second, but the third batch turned out perfectly. Mama would be proud, Maya said, biting into a warm cookie. Samuel also gave them each a special gift that Christmas. For Maya, he had framed a photo of her with Elena, taken just a few weeks before Elena died. For Lucy, he created a scrapbook, filled with pictures of Elena and stories about her life. So you'll always remember, he told them. But the best gift was one they gave him. Maya had drawn a picture of their family, Elena watching from a cloud while Samuel, Maya, and Lucy stood together in front of their house. At the bottom, in Maya's careful handwriting, it said, "Our family." Lucy's gift was simpler, but just as meaningful. She had made him a card that said, "I love you, Papa Samuel," with a drawing of a heart. Samuel kept both gifts on his dresser and looked at them every morning when he woke up. Spring brought new challenges and new joys. Maya turned 9 and had her first birthday without her mother. Samuel worried about how to make it special, but Maya surprised him. "I want to have a party in the garden," she said. Mama loved the garden in spring, so they invited Maya's school friends and had a party outside among the flowers that Elena had planted. Maya smiled and laughed more than Samuel had seen since her mother died. Lucy turned 5 that summer and started kindergarten in the fall. She was nervous about being away from Samuel all day, but she adapted quickly. Her teacher, Mrs. Williams, told Samuel that Lucy was bright and social, with a natural gift for making other children feel included. "She's going to be a leader someday," Mrs. Williams predicted. Maya, now in 4th grade, was excelling in school despite everything she had been through. Her teacher recommended her for the gifted program, and she started reading books that challenged Samuel to keep up with her intellectual curiosity. "Maya's going to be a lawyer or a doctor," Samuel told Dr. Matthews during one of his sessions. "She's too smart for her own good sometimes." "How do you feel about that?" Dr. Matthews asked. "Proud, scared, worried I won't be able to guide her properly when she gets older." "You're learning just like she is. That's all any parent can do." The second Christmas was easier. They had established new traditions while keeping some old ones. They still made Elena's cookies, but they also started new customs, like letting Lucy pick out the Christmas tree and having Maya choose what Christmas movie they would watch together. Samuel also started a tradition of reading the girls one of Elena's letters each Christmas Eve. Elena had written them for special occasions, and Samuel doled them out carefully, saving most for when the girls were older. The letter he read that second Christmas was about the importance of family, not just the family you're born into, but the family you choose. "Some families are made by blood," Elena had written, "but some families are made by love. Both kinds are equally real and equally precious." Maya and Lucy listened with rapt attention, and Samuel felt Elena's presence in the room with them. By the 3rd year, they had settled into a rhythm that felt natural and right. Samuel had learned to braid hair and pack school lunches and help with homework. He had learned to comfort nightmares and celebrate small victories and navigate the complex, emotional needs of growing children. Maya, now 11, was becoming more independent but still relied on Samuel for guidance and support. She had inherited her mother's fierce protectiveness and often looked out for Lucy at school. Lucy, now 7, was pure sunshine most days. though she still had moments when she missed her mama intensely. She had started calling Samuel Dad without any prompting, which made his heart sing every time. The town had gradually accepted their unusual family. Samuel was no longer the mysterious mountain hermit. He was Maya and Lucy's dad, the man who volunteered at school events and coached Lucy's soccer team and helped Maya with her science fair projects. He still kept his cabin on the mountain, though he rarely went there anymore. Sometimes,